Okay, welcome. Welcome to WomenNC and Women Freedom Forum virtual event at the CSW67. Some of us are present at CSW after COVID. This is the first year that we can meet in person, and some of us are not, and they are joining us from North Carolina, from Washington, D.C., and from Germany. My name is Beth Dehghan, and I am an Iranian American human rights activist who have been a regular participant of CSW for the past 27 years. Youth leadership has been a burning passion in my heart from the beginning. And in 2009, I decided to start a new NGO with the focus on youth leadership training to open a space, to open a local to global space for the young people in my community in southeastern part of the United States. The name of our state is North Carolina, the 28th largest state in US with population of 10 million, consists of 22% African American and 10% Latinos. The purpose of this panel is to show the power of youth leadership in practice in revolutionary Iran and in the United States. To me, no matter where we live in this world, if we open the door or when the opportunity arrives, young people will thrive and they will show their great potential in a leadership role in their communities. In a progressive country such as United States, they become human rights advocates to pave the road for social justice and to work with their representatives to change laws and regulation to make the situation better. And in countries like Iran, the young people could lead the daily uprising and call for regime change to have a society full of peace, freedom, and prosperity. To continue our conversation, I ask 2 rounds of questions from WomenNC's head of the growth and development first, and then I will talk to 2 other members of WomenNC's, one of the students and one of the board members. So I began with my questions from Ava. Yes. Ava, I know you are a student and you are a tech savvy person. Without you, we couldn't make, through this CSW because of all this technical knowledge that you have. And you have been working with WomenNC for the past couple of years. How can you describe your leadership role within this NGO, WomenNC? Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Beth. So just a little background. I started out working with WomenNC as an undergraduate intern for just 1 semester. I loved interning with WomenNC so much that I decided to continue to intern for WomenNC pro bono for a year. After volunteering as an intern with WomenNC for a year, the past executive director offered me the job as head of growth and development. The past executive director, Maria Ryman, she really saw my drive and passion for women's rights, specifically in the technology sector. And she wanted me to be paid for the valuable work that I was doing for WomenNC. So now as head of growth and development, I wear many different hats. One thing I'm very proud of is helping start our community education initiative. WomenNC's community education initiative brings the work of our scholars and experts from various fields of local advocacy and research organizations and individuals with lived experiences across many topics to the attention of North Carolinians for free. Though our community education events, like we are able to provide crucial information and resources to individuals who may be affected by these gender disparities. Some community education topics we have been able to cover in the past include voting rights, LGBTQ healthcare access, understanding substance use through a gender lens, sex trafficking in North Carolina, sexual assault, gun violence against women, as well as many other topics. So knowledge is power, and through our community education events, we seek to give people the knowledge and the power to make meaningful and informed decisions. As WomenNC's head of growth and development, I've been able to lend my lived experiences in all aspects of my work, especially towards our partnership with UNC Public Policy Capstone Project. So for this policy students at UNC, I wrote a project proposal to tackle gender-based violence among lesbian and trans women. One fundamental step to solving this is the need for more research in this particular issue. So in my role, I'm helping guide the students through the research, and this research will help inform and improve policy recommendations and solutions to help eliminate gender discrimination and disparities among this vulnerable population.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. You have done such a great job. And this CSW is all about technology and digital age and all that. So how can you describe your leadership role with WomenNC by applying all your wonderful skills to take the organization to the next level from technological standpoint?
Yeah, so initially my job at WomenNC started out as an intern for social media, as a social media manager, which may sound like a small, minuscule thing, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a crucial aspect to gender advocacy that WomenNC was previously missing. So through my work as social media manager, I worked to raise awareness about different issues affecting women in North Carolina, the US, and the world through digestible infographic social media posts. This method of gender advocacy brings information straight to technology users' fingertips and creates a system that enables people to become informed and share critical issues with others with one reshare button tap. So due to me being able to increase WomenNC social media engagement and reach, WomenNC was given the opportunity to become one of the beneficiaries of Bon Iver's concert tours and his campaign to raise money to end gender discrimination. So this shows the impact that investing in technology and investing in women working in marketing and technology, the great impact that it has on a small nonprofit. And so we are able to have this opportunity to help amplify our voice and our mission on a bigger platform. I also have helped to spread the good word about other gender-focused organizations and publicize their events for them, because it's important to not only be serving the organization you work for, but also find ways to serve and promote like-minded organizations through your work. So it is important and crucial to note that anyone participating in gender advocacy, especially now with the use of technology, it makes it easier now than ever before to raise awareness for issues going on all around the world. I also want to note that it should not just be up to the younger generation to carry out this gender advocacy in the digital world, but older generations now have the responsibility to learn and teach themselves new skills and how to utilize these platforms to increase gender advocacy. Using excuses as to why they choose not to engage in the digital world is not enough anymore. Gender equality and advocacy needs to occur in all spaces, public, private, and digital spheres, as well as take on from all generations, from all people.
Thank you very much. You have done such a great job. Okay, I turn over to Isa, one of our graduates from WomenNC's leadership training program, who is serving on the board in the leadership position in the organization. Isa, it would be great if you can explain in summary this leadership training program that WomenNC is offering for mostly undergraduate students, male and female, in North Carolina colleges and universities. Thank you.
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. Like Beth said, my name is Isa. I currently serve on the board of WomenNC, but on my day job, I work as a public health analyst at RTI International, looking into research related to substance use, gender, and HIV. To give a little bit more information about WomenNC, it kind of came from the idea that working with young people to create research to really drive advocacy is one way we can really empower the next generation. So what we do with WomenNC is we work with university students in the Triangle area of North Carolina. And for those who are unfamiliar, this is a triangle of cities kind of in the center of the state that's really home to a lot of wonderful tech companies and research. So we work with these undergraduate students to create their own research projects aimed at understanding gender inequalities on a local level. And then what's really wonderful about the program is we work with these students and they're paired with what we call femtours, or mentors from OTI International, to really help solidify their research methodologies and make sure that they're strong projects. And then from there, we work with them to engage in advocacy, really build on public speaking and presentation skills. And then ultimately the goal is that they can take this research with them into whatever they do in the future. So my experience at WomenNC, I looked into reproductive health education. And
excuse me, Isa, I'm sorry. I think we have a little bit difficulties with the sound system of your, can you talk into the mic? I don't know how we can fix it, but is it to me or it is Ava? It is for everybody.
Yeah, I think the sound's just a little bit blurry, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. So sorry, is this a little bit better? Okay. Sorry about that. So WomenNC is just a really wonderful program for local undergraduates to get experience in research, but to also support them in building their own personal network. And then the wonderful experience too of being able to attend CSW. I was just there for a few days. I didn't get to attend in my year because of COVID-19, but it's just a really great program, unique, and also I think can be applied to universities and just areas across the United States.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And now I turn over the microphone to Anna, to Leah, I'm sorry. I have all these 10 students that I mix their names, you know, I think I'm getting old anyway. And okay, please introduce yourself. You are one of the current scholars of WomenNC and you finished your program and you came to the United Nations as a part of program to present your research and to learn from this global audience here to take it back to your community. Please introduce yourself and let us know that why did you apply for this program and how do you find out the program? And then I go to the second question. Go ahead, please.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Leah Wilcoxon, and I am a current WomenNC scholar and accelerated bachelor's master's student at North Carolina State University. I became involved with WomenNC because of a need that I saw to repair the disparities in global women's health through research. WomenNC offered me the skills to expand my skills in the research realm to support me on this pathway. Understanding that my identity can serve a purpose to my role in my community and career has left me self-assured in my future direction. Since then, I have had the powerful opportunity of working and collaborating with nonprofits and research institutes to connect and work on global issues, including the Gambian Girl Power, which serves girls in the Gambian to empower them on their pathway to education. WomenNC and my work with the Gambian Girl Power has created a pathway for me to use my identity and lead other young women to improving our communities for each other. In this way, leadership has been crucial to my purpose of improving the status of women in healthcare. Without that ability to lead, I would have little motivation and little progress on that front.
Okay, and now, after what are you planning to do after just finishing your research? Now you have experienced CSW and you have been in several side events, parallel events, official events. You have learned so much from this global audience here and participants. So what is your next step? How you are going to apply this knowledge for your activism in your community?
Sure. So with WomenNC, my project was titled "The Need of Public Health Support Structures for Rural College-Educated Women in North Carolina to Decrease Brain Drain," and it's been focused on understanding what improvements a community can see when public women's health becomes a priority in rural areas, particularly on the increase in educated women that community could see. So, as a master's student in global health, I am hoping to continue developing this research project to better understand the outcomes of improving women's health in rural areas. I plan on further applying my findings to urge communities to prioritize women's health needs in county level health departments, incentivizing women's health clinics to build in rural areas, and encourage policy code to address health insurance attainment for women. But I can't do it alone. I invite all of you to join me in supporting initiatives. I have had such a wonderful opportunity at CSW to meet wonderful change makers and brilliant minds. It's important to unite together to improve women's health around the world, whether it's volunteering your time or resources or simply spreading awareness about the issue. Every little bit counts. So together we can make the difference. And thank you so much.
Thank you. You have done a wonderful job with your research and your presentation here and all that. Thank you. Before I turn over the stage to our Iranian speakers, I would like to share some statistics with you to give you some background, and then we are going to watch a 4 minutes video clip about the testimony from inside Iran in regard of recent uprising. Iran has 80 million, the population of Iran is 80 million, and 50% of them are under age 30. So it is a young country. Iran's Generation Z, or digital natives, the generation that was born between 1997 to 2012, are 7% of the population. And before this unrest and uprising in Iran, 80% of people had access to internet. And most of these young people, as I said, 50% are under age 30. They were very good with social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, especially TikTok. And so the country, the technology, to get back to CSW's theme, the technology has played a very crucial role in the recent uprising in Iran. And then another component are the youth population. Having this statistic in your mind, we are going to watch a 4 minutes video clip prepared by PBS, a public television here in the United States. And then we continue our panel with our Iranian panelists.
Today, the U.S. called for Iran to lose its position on a UN commission that promotes female empowerment as punishment for Iran's ongoing crackdown against protesters. Nationwide demonstrations are now in their 7th week, sparked by the death of a 22-year-old woman in police custody. Nick Schifrin and producer Zeba Varsi have been speaking to students in Iran and report that despite Iran's attempts at suppression, the national protests persist.
It is Iran's civil rights movement, and it's led by students. They break through the fear that kept them compliant, break through the wall that separated men from women, and chant one word: freedom. At Iran's most elite universities, they vow never to give up. They don't want reform, they want revolution. This university student told us, asking to be kept anonymous.
Change the regime. Woman, life, freedom.
Female students fueled the demonstrations by burning what was once a regime pillar, the mandatory headscarf. They are leaderless and mostly non-violent, which they contrast with the crackdown. You are amoral, they chant. I am the noble woman. But the regime fights back. Across the country, police exhibit no restraint. Students run for their lives. 2 weeks ago, the family of 16-year-old Nika Shakarami accused the police of detaining and murdering her after she protested. At her gravesite, the crowd chanted, "Death to Khamenei."
The government agents shot directly to those who came to participate in the funeral ceremony. They use any method to find the protesters. In our schools and universities, forces in military uniforms attack the students with batons and guns and through tear gas.
Students post blurred videos to protect protesters' identities. Many of the students who spoke to us did so on the condition we don't show their face and alter their voice.
Some of them were chanting, and the police officers, the men with motorcycles came. There were like 20, 30, and they started to shoot us. What did we do? They don't care. They just started to shoot us, and a lot of people got shot in front of me, including me. I got shot, but it was just paintball.
Students and teachers told us protesters have been expelled, and teachers are pressured to rat student demonstrators out. The UN and human rights groups say hundreds, if not thousands, of students have been detained and dozens killed.
From one side, they were shooting us. From another side, they were waiting to arrest us. We experienced all these moments because of what? What was our fault? We were just asking for our basic human right, for the freedom of our friends who did nothing wrong.
Today in a photo op, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei met students in Tehran. He later said he had no issues with student protesters, but called them emotional and negligent in their understanding and manipulated by the West. Another student told us he's missing the point.
We're protesting for a better life, of course. A lot of choices were taken away from us, especially women, under this regime. It's not just about hijab. It's about the choice of living however we want. We want to choose our own religion, and we want to wear the clothes we want.
This student says the protests are the only thing anyone discusses. They help each other to avoid internet censorship and to keep the faith.
I guess we're kind of hopeful too, because before this protest started, a lot of students my age were planning on immigrating, and I guess, at least I'm speaking for myself, that I'm kind of hopeful that I can stay here. We're fighting so we don't have to leave our country behind, we don't have to leave our family behind. We're fighting so we could build our lives here. The world without Islamic Republic is a better world for everyone.
Because this was a generation that hasn't been politically very active or hasn't mobilized, and their response is quite fierce. They're very angry, and they're looking to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I turn on the stage to Sahar from Germany. Sahar, please introduce yourself and give us some background about how you have become involved with this youth uprising in Iran and how everything started. This video clip was just 6 weeks after the uprising started. Now it has been almost 6 months, and it has its own ups and down phases, but it is still going on, and the crackdown of uprising is still there. And I'm sure the Sahar is going to discuss about the consequences and the role of youth in this uprising. Sahar, floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Beth. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this subject today. I feel very honored to meet all of you and to know you and to talk to you. It's always a very emotional moment for me when I see all these pictures about the uprisings in Iran, and I hope that I can give you some information about the situation. My name is Sahar Sanai. I'm a psychotherapist for children and juveniles, and I have lived in Germany since I was 5 years old. My parents had to flee Iran with me after both were imprisoned under the Khomeini regime. 2 brothers of my father and many friends of my parents were executed in Iran because of their activities against Khomeini. I started to get involved with the suffering of the Iranian, especially the youth population, very early when I began to understand that not only my family is a victim of this regime, but millions of other Iranians. I have been active in the Iranian resistance for years, and I'm also an activist in a women's rights NGO. Since the beginning of the uprisings, our activities have multiplied. We do a lot of educational work with the press and organize demonstrations and participate in them. Since early in the uprising, we campaigned the UN for a special session in which they passed a resolution for a fact-finding mission to investigate crimes against civilians in Iran. The campaign was successful and the fact-finding mission has now been established. This fact-finding committee will investigate the crimes of this regime so that they will no longer disappear into nowhere, but the regime will have to answer. For 6 months now, protests have been taking place in Iran, triggered by the death of the innocent 22-year-old Mahsa Amini because she allegedly did not follow the strict dress code. More than 700 people have been killed on the streets, including 70 minors. 30,000 have been imprisoned, and at least 4 execution sentences have been carried out. The truth is that Iran is facing a second revolution after almost half a century. After the people of Iran abolished the Shah dictatorship in 1979, Iranians hoped to create a new democratic republic. Unfortunately, 40 years ago, Khomeini was able to ride the wave of this revolution and deprive the people of their newly won freedoms. Khomeini ruled with an iron fist and massive brutality. Everyone who wanted to be politically active had to accept and submit to the Velayat Faqih, the supreme religious leader who sees himself as the representative of God on earth. Those who did not were persecuted as blasphemers, imprisoned, tortured, and executed. In the summer of 1988 alone, more than 30,000 political prisoners were executed within a few weeks without a fair trial. On the social level, oppression began with women. What we have been seeing in Iran for the last 6 months is anger that has pent up for years and is now being discharged. As you told, Beth, Iran has a young population, and you told us how they use the social media, and I think this is a very important fact because with the social media, the young Iranian they can see what is happening all over the world, and they can see the differences between the way of their lives and the way of life of young people living in the Western countries. Imagine you are a young Iranian, full of life, energy, desires, and hopes, but with no prospects of a good life inside. Even with a good academic degree, there is no perspective on a career. Partying, dancing, having fun are forbidden in Iran and are punished with lashes and prison sentences. The regime has proven in recent years that it is neither interested in nor capable of satisfying the needs of the young generation and the Iranians. For years, it has contained the anger of its citizens with false promises and fake reformists. In recent years, there have been many protests which have been bloodily put down, such as in November 2019, where within a week, internet shutdown, 1,500 people were killed. This has led to the protests becoming more radicalized, and Iranians in resistance have learned to organize themselves better. In the current protests, a point has now been reached where anger at the regime exceeds fear of oppression. I would like to emphasize that Iran has suffered a great loss in one important aspect. If there had been a fact-finding committee after the abolition of the last regime, crimes in the Shah's prisons, and this information would have been available to the Iranians, a reappraisal of history could have taken place, and we would not be at this point in Iran now. But unfortunately, the fundamentalist nature of the mullahs did not allow that to happen.
Thank you very much, Sahar. It is really heartbreaking when we talk here about the statistic, about the pressure on the youth population in Iran, but in reality, these people on the street, they are paying the highest price by risking their lives, by risking their safety and security. But I was talking to one of my cousins in Iran on the phone, and she told me we don't have anything to lose. The way the situation is, this is not life for us. We prefer even to die on the street than just having this life. So they are pretty determined, and hopefully the situation gets better. My second question, Sahar, from you is that now the media is just portraying this situation in a way that the uprising has calmed down. The government has been able to control the uprising, and but we hear also about the poisoning the high school girls. You know, out of sudden they see like 50% of the student in one class, you know, the symptoms are like food poisoning appears, they cough and they throw up, they feel bad, they faint. And then it has been like a systematic symptom in most of the high schools. And then they have come to this conclusion that this is just a sort of cracking down and bringing fear among the families, because one of the most active groups in the uprising in the past 6 months were like young girls. As I said, the ages between the people who were born, they call it Dehghan 1977 to 2012. And so they want to just bring fear and scare them so they don't repeat the things that they did in the past few months. So, but considering all these, Sahar, how do you see the stage of uprising in Iran, especially with emphasis and the focus on the role of youth leading this uprising?
You know, I think every revolution has its ups and downs and does not take place with the same intensity throughout. I think the situation in Iran is at a point of no return. It is true that the demonstrations have decreased because the repression that comes from the regime, and especially the execution of 4 innocent young men, has spread fear and terror in Iran. In Iran, Iranians, as you mentioned, pay a high price when they take to the streets, namely with their lives. And it is a truth that the repressive mechanism of the regime has done its job. Especially the killing of young Iranians has spread terror in society, and parents are very worried about their children. The regime knew very well that its actions would be condemned on the international stage, but the regime had to do it to maintain its power. It either had to convince people to stay calm, or it had to start killing. Unfortunately, the regime has chosen to kill. I think the question is, why are the Iranians demonstrating? Why do they want to abolish the regime? The reason why they took to the streets and want to abolish the mullah regime are still there. Nothing has changed. The regime has not changed anything at its core. Quite recently, the regime issued a statement for all female pharmacy employees, clearly emphasizing that the headscarf is no longer sufficient, but that a strict dress code should be worn. Otherwise, working in pharmacies will not be allowed in the future. So this is the reality of the youth population in Iran. So it is clear that nothing has changed. Instead of answering to the needs of the young women and the young schoolgirls, the regime starts to poisoning them. The strict dress code and the compulsory hijab are an important issue, but we must not deceive ourselves. The headscarf is not the core conflict in Iran. We could observe during the protest that both women with and without headscarves participated in the protests. After all, Iran is a Muslim country. The core conflict lies much deeper than that. The Iranians reject the regime in its entirely because of its corruption, its inaction, its fundamentalist thinking, because its reality is out of step with the current century, and because it is a country that has been in the grip of a fundamentalist regime for decades. All these things have led Iranians to want to abolish this regime, especially the youth population. These conflicts are still on the table. It has even worsened. Since the beginning of the protests, for example, inflation has risen by 1/3, which means that Iranians have become poorer. When I talk about people and Iranians, I mean the Iranians on the streets or in the bazaars, not members of the government and not family members of revolutionary guards. Iranians see the class difference in the society very well. It's wrong to think that the protests are over. It's like an ember under the ashes that can flare up at any time. We must not be deceived. All the conflicts and problems are obvious and present. Even the regime's own government members and state newspapers say, let's see when and where it will start again. An important point is that the regime is not able to solve the Iranian problems. For example, as a solution to the falling currency rate, government members are proposing to execute some people. This could stop the falling currency rate. Imagine for a problem for which economists all over the world are invited to come up with solution strategies, government members of this regime think executions are a good solution. The regime's ideological thinking is stuck in the executions of the 15th century. You ask in which direction it is going. It is quite certain that when the protests start again in Iran, it will be more radical and more organized than the times before, because Iranians have learned. That is the law of every revolution, I think. How long it takes, I don't know, but they are in that process, and an evolution is very clear. I think the interaction between home and abroad is very important at this point. The more we support the Iranians, especially the youth population, and advocate for their issues and put pressure on the Western government, it can act as a catalyst to drive the revolution forward.
Thank you very much. Yes, you said it all. We definitely need more international solidarity for Iranian people. And before I move to ask my question from Ryan, I need to make this statement that for the first time of the United Nations history, Iran's membership was dissolved from CSW committee in last December. And this was initiated by Ambassador Greenfield, the ambassador of the United States at the UN, but the civil society and all the dignitaries and celebrities, they supported the idea, and then they removed Iran from CSW committee. So this is a good news. And also Sahar mentioned that United Nations Human Rights Commission also has created a special committee to monitor the human rights situation in Iran. But still, Iranian people need more solidarity. Today, I heard that the majority of the members of United States Congress supported the Iranian uprising and the Iranian people. So this kind of support means a lot, and it brings hope to the heart of Iranian people and give them encouragement to continue the good work until they reach the peace, prosperity, and the freedom for their country. Ryan, I would like you to introduce yourself and tell us how you have been involved with this youth uprising in Iran. Although you live in California, you go to college, you can have your good time. What has motivated you to become an activist as an Iranian American living in California? Okay, the floor is yours. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hi, my name is Ryan Nasir. I'm a college student, and I'm also part of OYAC Youth. So what really brought me to be an activist is because I'm speaking on behalf of the generation in Iran today that are at the forefront of the fight against the regime. The reason I'm even here today is because my mom was imprisoned at such a young age for being a political activist. From her brother being executed in a sham trial, which lasted 5 minutes, to the brutal tortures my mother faced for over 5 years by the interrogator Larja Vardi in Evin prison. These stories inspired me to be an activist. My involvement in activities for supporting Iran's people started from a young age, from attending various protests, speaking with political leaders, and working with community leaders to amplify the voices of Iranian youth. Among those of the Iranian youth that have been killed in Iran over the past 6 months, which I'm trying to be the voice of, include names like Kian Pirfalek, only age 10 when he was shot directly by repressive forces, Omid Sarani, age 13, Samar Hashem Zemi, age 16, and countless others are the torchbearers of freedom in Iran. This generation carries all the experience of prior generations and seeds from the decades-long determination and sacrifice of a nation that is simply seeking freedom and democracy. From the 1988 massacre of thousands of political prisoners, which many were teenagers as young as 13, such as Nasrin Rostami. And this generation has brave heroes to look up to, and they have no plans to back down. They get more determined every single day to bring this regime down and topple it. As you know, these protests in Iran show no signs of stopping. The developments since September 2022 of last year clearly showed that those leading the fight to confront the repressive forces on the ground are setting the pace and leading the way in the streets as the nation is being unified behind the chants of death to Khamenei and death to dictator. The 2019 protests were short-lived and suppressed, but the Iranian people have been uprising for over 40 years. But today is imperative to support them because this protest has lasted over 6 months. The outrage of Mahsa Amini's death was only a spark, and her death culminated in the massive protests we see today. However, this is because of a decades-long struggle against the Iranian regime, which started from the beginning. Another point I'd also like to bring up is the concern of internet services in Iran, which millions of people use the internet to conduct business, report political activities, report on human rights abuses. So it is crucial to allow activists inside the country to communicate properly, especially considering the UN fact-finding mission is relying on people inside Iran to properly document the human rights abuses perpetrated by the Iranian regime and interrogators such as the ones inside Evin prison, which are brutally torturing and raping women and teenagers my age. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ryan, just in a very, we are running a little bit out of time, but in a summary, how do you see the leadership role of youth in this uprising? And are they organized? How they network? How they lead, these demonstrations on the street? And if you can share us some of this real picture that we don't hear from media, unfortunately, it will be great.
So basically, I believe that the difference between this time and the last time, it basically lies in the larger role of the youth resistance units, which are teenagers, high school students, college students, people in all sectors of society that have basically banded together and came together to create these sort of groups to continue their struggle against the regime, start small protests. They break the wall of fear and oppression that the regime has so desperately tried to build over these past 40 years. Women are especially leaders of these resistance units that are organized. Women, I believe that women are some of the biggest leaders of these resistance units because they're considered second-class citizens and they are so brutally suppressed by the regime and not allowed to basically do anything without so-called a man's permission. And just one last thing to add is that another reason why these protests are so organized are because the educated people inside more than 130 universities are part of these protests, including Tehran University and others. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was very informative. It brings a lot of hope to the heart of all the activists around the world, especially this audience of CSW, that it is like a place for activism and all activists from all over the world are here. With many, many thanks to all of you, to WomenNC speakers and our Iranian speakers. At this point, I would like to ask Ava if you have any questions in the chat room so we can address the question.
So far, I don't think we have any questions, but feel free to pose any if you have any. You can post them in the Zoom chat or on the Facebook Live chat.
I see. I would like to just ask one more question from Isa, that Isa, this leadership training program that you have, which is like a collaboration between NGO and these academic institutions like Duke University, NC State and all that, is it practical? How does this work, and how you NGO collaborate with like an academic institution?
Absolutely. So it's important, I guess, to remember that WomenNC is not directly affiliated with any of the universities, but what we do is we work to basically work with universities to see how many students they'd be willing to support or sponsor in participating in the program. Then we open up applications and select our scholar classes for the year. And then at that point, WomenNC students participate in the program. So it's not a class necessarily, it's an outside organization. But as Ava mentioned, WomenNC also has programs where they work directly with public policy students at UNC, for example, or in the past, I know there have been other instances where WomenNC has worked more directly with university courses to support their efforts, but the leadership program in particular is explicitly just students at universities who are supported by their universities to participate in this program. So it's a really unique kind of way of empowering youth to do research and then advocacy based on their research that kind of fosters collaboration across institutions in the area. And for North Carolina in particular, the Research Triangle Park area is really rich with university institutions as well as organizations and companies that do this important work. So it's a really unique area, but I think it's also a model that could be replicated in other areas across the world too. Yeah, but that's a little bit more about.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to ask our expert in the technology and digital age, Ava. Ava, how can you help this youth in Iran that they, with the internet outage, and you know that I'm not a techie person at all. That's why I have someone here also to help me to set up this Zoom and all that, one of our students. And anyway, but how can people such as yourself and experts and all these experts at CSW can help Iranian people inside Iran to cope with daily issues that they are facing with the internet outage?
Yes, so as far as like the technology and what people at home can do is, you know, to work on raising awareness, continuing to publicize this issue, because, you know, this is an issue and it's going to be ongoing and it's going to last for a while. And so everybody, not just people in Iran, need to raise awareness for this issue. You know, WomenNC shares lots of articles about the uprisings. You know, the simple click to share, it goes out to all of your friends. Increasing awareness and spreading information is one of the ways that we can all work together on this issue. And then like get down to the grassroots level, write to people, write to these legislators, write to the people at the United Nations. They want to hear from the people what they have to say, and it's really important. As far as what people can do in Iran to cope, you know, practicing mental health is a big issue, and finding ways to, you know, rely on others, come together as forces, unite, and don't give up.
Thank you very much. And how about you, Sahar? What do you expect from this more than 20,000 participants of CSW? What is your message for them?
First of all, I think I want to thank them for their activities, and I would like to ask them, please continue being the voice of the Iranians, the young Iranians especially. They have the right to live the way they want, to choose their lives, to have the basic human rights, and to have the right to go to the streets without being killed. So please be their voice and be the voice of the resistance, the movement of resistance in Iran. Thank you.
How about you, Ryan? Do you have any special requests from people of the world and the activists?
Hi, sorry, can you hear me? So yeah, I just like to request that the UN be completely, don't have any proper investigation into any of the crimes and crimes against humanity that the regime perpetrates on brutal tortures inside prisons. So I just like them to be thorough with their investigation and make sure to hold Iran accountable.
If you want to have your final sentence, say something, your message, you are welcome to do so. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up our panel at this point. And thank you so much for the information that you shared. We have been broadcasting this live on Facebook and other social media outlets. So many people are watching us in addition to people who logged into our Zoom. So thank you very much. I wish you the best as the leader, as hope for the future of humanity, and in United States, in Iran, and elsewhere around the world. And I am wishing you the best, and thank you very much in whatever you are doing as an activist, as a scholar, as a leader of the NGOs and all that. So if you have any comment you want to make, you are welcome. Otherwise, we conclude our panel at this point. Okay, then.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Beth, I just wanted to share very briefly that one of the biggest takeaways that I've had from CSW67 is that there are so many like-minded people that are pushing for changes in different realms that impact women. And so I think the biggest message that I'd like to share is just make sure that you are interacting with these communities for change. And, you know, we have so many like-minded people, so reach out. And the biggest way that we're going to pave for change is by working together and by uniting. And so that's all I want to share with you today, is just make sure that we collaborate together and create a community and make that wave of women's efforts. So thank you.
Exactly. We have seen the outcome of this collaboration, international collaboration in Iran uprising. The impact has been great and very, very helpful. Thank you very much again, and enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, wherever you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.